All right, everybody. Welcome in on a Tuesday night to the Hoops Rehab show. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty good. How's everything going on your end?
Oh, everything's good. Lakers win streak did end last night, and we're going to get into that.
And it did.
But other than that, basketball's heating up. We have the
Ooh.
NCAA tournament down to the Sweet 16, and we also have the MVP race heating up in the NBA. But as always, everybody, I am the Game Injury Doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab show. You can find us here at the YouTube channel that we have. If you're on it right now, please hit that subscribe button, drop some comments, and we'll get to them in the show. You can also follow our pod wherever you get your podcasts. It's the Hoops Rehab show. Please rate and comment on that, and we will have episodes up there every time we do an episode. But Eric, you ready to get this cracking?
Let's get it going.
All right, man. So Lakers took a 9-game winning streak into Detroit without Cade Cunningham, which
right.
Detroit is still, I believe they were 7-2 without Cade in general on the season. So pretty good going into that night, even without their best player and possible MVP candidate. It was a tough night. I felt like the Lakers were, they're living on a high. They're playing on a high. They're galvanizing at the right time. LeBron has found his role. But last night they felt like they ran out of gas, but they made the comeback in the third and fourth quarter and pretty much had a chance to win it, but couldn't get any defensive stops down the stretch. So, Eric, what did you see in that game, and what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think at halftime and just the way not so much the score, because Lakers have had some success with comebacks and have had a good second half runs through this 9-game stretch, or 12 out of 13 or what have you. But it was just kind of the way it looked. It looked like I was like, oh man, okay, so this is not the Lakers night. They're almost ending a road trip. Obviously 1 game left with Indiana. They've had a lot of travel, a lot of, obviously not. They had a couple back-to-backs, but they had the game every other night. You're playing a super without Cade. They still have playing a good Pistons team who's super physical and makes you work for everything. And so,
Yep.
I got to give a little credit to the Lakers. They showed some kind of pop there in the second half. I know sometimes we kind of like kid around like, oh man, Lakers got like that fake comeback going, and where you're down by like 15-20 and you bring it down to 7 and it just never gets close. But Lakers actually took the lead. Obviously, I think without Marcus Smart, especially down the stretch, I think it was very obvious that somebody like him is needed. Lakers could not buy a stop in those last few possessions where they really needed it. And at the end of the day, I mean, the streak wasn't going to go on forever. Obviously, it would have been nice to get that win. With them losing, though, I think Houston lost as well. So I know we'll probably talk about the standings a bit, but kind of just looking ahead, got to get the next 3, even with this loss. But yeah, I think everybody was, Luka was a bit tired. LeBron definitely didn't have his legs. And so you kind of got to chalk it up to that, I think.
Yeah, when I saw the box score at half, right, LeBron has 0, and he's 0 for 5. You're like, all right, legs are probably not where they should be. But then he came out in the second half and, scored 12. Also came close to a triple-double again, had 10 and 9 as well. So he was doing his thing. He's playing his role. And after the game, he was asked about, how to feel to kind of go scoreless in the first half, taking 5 shots, etc. And he said he's playing his role. And at this time, this role is the best thing for them to win, right? So he is fully bought into LeBron being, if you have to say, the third option, but allowing Luka and Austin Reeves to kind of feed off each other. But also it's helping him become more of a facilitator again, right? Because his assist numbers were down a little bit this year because of Luka and also because of Austin Reeves. And I feel like he's, over this 6-game winning stretch where he's come back from injury and things like that, his assist numbers are up. He's getting close to triple doubles. He's been as the most efficient player or stretch of games in his career where he's shooting 15 shots or below in every game. So it's kind of amazing to see him kind of switch to that role. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I know last time we talked that we were pretty like as far as like the pecking order, we were kind of saying maybe that number three. And I think what it really is just watching the last handful of games. It's kind of like that if you I mean, there's really nothing that says like who's a 1 and 2 or 3, but like obviously Luka's the one.
Yeah,
But I think he's kind of like a 2/3, right? There's going to be games where I think he is a little bit more effective than Austin Reeves, and then maybe the other way around. And then again, that gives LeBron some time to not have to be the man on offense and maybe be able to preserve some energy for the defensive end or
for
for
sure.
end of games. So I think I kind of like after seeing again a handful of games, I probably take it back where it's like third option. It's kind of like that 2A, 2B,
Yeah,
when obviously for the first 7 years of LeBron, even when they got Luca, I mean, he was obviously 1A, 1B, number one. And then when he got Luca, maybe 1A, 1B, a little bit of two. But now the rules are very much defined. And I think that's what was needed for that trio to have some success. We still don't know where it's going to end up at. We still don't know if they're going to get through the first round because it's going to be a tough opponent. But it does seem to have a little bit more like structure heading
yeah.
into this stretch run versus last year.
Yeah, for sure. And now we got a pretty big sample size of it, right? It's been
Mm-hmm.
11 games that LeBron has had 15 and under shots.
Oh,
Um,
it's been going still. Oh man,
yeah, it's 11 games now, and
so
they're 9-2 in that stretch, right? So
wow,
it's I,
yeah,
I
it's crazy.
think he's made that switch a while back. We started noticing essentially when he came back from injury, but he's made that switch like 11 games prior to that, right? So obviously him and JJ kind of probably had conversations and figured this was the best give them the best chance to kind of be a winning basketball team. And I think that's what they've done. And I'm not surprised they lost a game in Detroit, especially on a road trip, that they've been winning these games. They won, got lucky in Orlando and kind of won that game, but in general they've played close, they played great in clutch. But you're bound to lose one of these. Now what you can't do is F up with any of these next three games against these total teams that are tanking. And if that happens, then we got a problem. But it looks like they're going to have the third seed in hand, especially with what you said. Houston lost the other night too, as well. Your mic is on mute.
Oh yes, sir. Sorry, I
There
was
you go.
counting. So was how many games left? 10 games left? One,
The
two, three, four,
Lakers,
five,
yeah, I
six,
believe there's
seven,
10.
8. Yeah, so 10 games left. Yeah, like so I figured if they would have lost to like they obviously like you said they Luke Kennard hit a big shot. They pulled out Orlando. If they would have lost that one, I think they would have had to have most likely beat Detroit. It was kind of like just get one
Sure.
of those two, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that was with the thought that you got at Indiana, Brooklyn, and Washington coming up. I don't want to hear, I know I get it when you're first game at home back from a road trip, none of that stuff. You got to just get those three before playing a final seven, which actually has some pretty decent opponents. But yeah, I mean, I posted on X, obviously last week, like Lakers, if they just have a decent kind of end here, 6-4, 7-3, they pretty much should get that third seed.
Yeah, I don't foresee them going, 5-5. I think that would be pretty hard still, especially going into the playoffs. I feel like they're still going to gather with this momentum that they've been playing with, right? 3 games against teams that are at the bottom should do some good for this team, and then also just create that momentum going into the playoffs. Now, when you think of like they're going to play OKC twice towards the end, which will be, a little measuring stick, I would say. Like when you look at all the teams that are left, I don't really think we need to worry about like Cleveland because they're on the East necessarily. And then the Lakers really just play. I mean, they play Phoenix, which is above 500. But other than that, it's Cleveland, OKC, and Phoenix that are the teams that are above 500, right? So we should be in good hands there. Now, I want to see how this team measures against the best of the best, right? And that would be OKC. So I'm looking forward to those games. I feel like the Lakers are probably going to have those circled on the calendars because they want to prove going into the playoffs that they can compete with a team like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like after the 3, they got, Cleveland was obviously a good team. And then they got the 2 OKC and then Phoenix. So, yeah, they got 2. I know last year was 2 at OKC. This will be
Yep.
1 here and 1 there. And so, um, yeah, I think you gotta beat a team like that. I'm not saying you got to win both, but you got to win one of those 2, and you got to, from a standings perspective, and just kind of to show you got a little fight against them. We'll see they obviously have San Antonio's kind of on their heels, but when we get to that point in particular, the one at home, Thunder could have it wrapped up. So that's the thing. When you start looking at games like towards the end of the year, it's like you don't really know what teams are going to be playing their guys or not. But yeah, out of the 10 games, you got Pacers, Nets, Washington, Utah. So those and Dallas. So those 5 that you just teams that are just can't wait for the summer, right?
Yeah,
And then
you can't have any losses against those 3, 5.
yeah, I know it's at Dallas and could be tough, but you got to just get that.
No way. You can't have any losses against those teams right there. So that's at least should be 5 wins, right? And then the rest, you got to prove that you can play against these teams, right? Like you shouldn't be losing to Phoenix, you shouldn't be losing to Golden State, and you got to at least get one of the 2 with OKC and show that you can play.
Yep. I really think, obviously, it depends on how these other teams do. I guess a team could technically go 10-0, 9-1, but if Lakers go about 6-4, which I think maybe 6-4. Preferably 7-3. As I said, they should lock up that 3 seed, and the only question will be who's going to get the 6, because that's going to be super important.
Yeah.
And as we talked about all last year, by the way, it's a year anniversary of our very first show, right? Pretty crazy.
It is crazy. That would be exactly a year today.
Yeah.
Give that applause.
Yeah, pretty nuts. But what we talked about all last year. And it's obviously with the Thunder winning 77 out of the 79 NBA champs have been a 1, 2, or 3 seed. So there you have it. You got to be a 1, 2, or 3.
You're telling me that they are contenders if they become a 3 seed. Obviously, if they keep the 3 seed, they are legit contenders in the NBA Finals.
It shows that 1 of 6 teams will win it, and history shows that.
Yep. Now, when you're looking at the standings, right? Lakers at the 3, and you see Denver at the 4 now, Minnesota at the 5, and Houston at the 6. I feel like, I hate to say who I want to play, what I want to play, I know it does not matter. But if this was the scenario for the playoffs, where Lakers would be playing Houston, Dallas or Denver would be playing Minnesota, right? And then you got OKC and San Antonio are going to play whatever the 7-8 is going to be.
Yeah.
Now, when you look down the road, I know we shouldn't look down the road. They still got to win a first round playoff series like they didn't last year. But that at least gives what I want to see is the OKC Denver rematch in the second round, which I think that would have given them at least, they're like the one team that gave OKC fits last year. And they'll say it to like the whole playoff run was the team in the West that gave them the most fits, right? So I like that idea, right? Now, that would be the Lakers playing San Antonio, right, in the second season. That's pretty much inevitable no matter what, unless we get the 4th and then have to play OKC in the second round, which is even harder. Now let's get to San Antonio, Eric. Did you know since February, they are 22-2. They've lost 2 games since February. They are on a tear. It seems like every other night they are just continuing to win. They have, how many wins do they have now? They have 54 wins. And this is a team that at one point to start the season, you were saying there would definitely be a playoff, like they should be a playoff team, but probably through the play-in.
Yep.
It's a team that was supposed to be that. And now they are literally legit number 2 seed, second in the league, second best record in the league, just behind OKC. What do you think of San Antonio, Eric?
Yeah, they're like similar to the Thunder of 3 years ago, the Houston of last year, but on steroids. And I think different from those teams, they have just got a little. Obviously, there's some inexperience from some of their top guys, but they got Harrison Barnes, for example, that's been there, done that. So, it's NBA is weird right now. You got like a bunch of teams that are playing or a decent amount of teams that are playing bad basketball. And then you got some pretty nice streaks. And so, for example, I know we're talking about San Antonio, but you see Lakers win 9 and you're like, damn, they haven't even not that I expected them to get to a 2 or 1 seed, but they haven't even haven't chipped away at anything. Cause you got OKC on a 12-game winning streak. And as you just mentioned, San Antonio 9-1 in their last 10, 22 of their last 24. So they are a tough team. I think this time around, your second round opponent, whether if it's you don't I remember in the past, it's you want to get the 3 seed to avoid the Thunder and things like that, which you still want to avoid them, I guess, if you will. But now it's either the Spurs or Thunder are going to be such a tough out in that second round. And yes, I think we can probably already put them into the second round. But yeah, they have a MVP candidate, obviously on their team. They are young. They're bad in a good way. I would say you got to hope that, their 3-point shooting is the one thing that's kind of not great. And so if you can get in a series with them and maybe they just kind of go cold from the 3-point line, then maybe you got a chance. But yeah, it's a surprise how well they're doing. That's for sure. Oh, you're on mute.
It's crazy that they're playing this well and OKC's won 12 in a row. They can't make up any ground and they're just dominating, right? They're still 3 games back, so technically they do have a chance because they own the tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you look at OKC's schedule, they do have some tough teams. Obviously, they have 2 against the Lakers. They got 1 against the Celtics. You got another 1 against the Knicks. You got another 1 against Denver. So they have some games on the schedule that could be challenging. But, that would be San Antonio would have to win pretty much every game on the way out too, right? So that makes it even more difficult. Now, when you look at the team just talent-wise, yes, they're like OKC 2 years ago. They are extremely talented, extremely young. But to me, the difference maker that they have is Wemby and his personality, right? He is fully the guy that you want to lead your team. When you looked at SGA, I would say he led by a different example. He led by his play, right? He got his team. He had a good camaraderie. He would have the interviews, have them all together. He was smooth. He's calculated, things like that. Wemby's the opposite, man. He's got that Kobe mentality.
Yeah.
When he went on the mic the other day and pretty much said why he should be the MVP, there's not many players in this league that will go in front of a mic and give detailed reasons why he deserves the MVP. Not that I should be a top 3 or I should be close in the voting. No, I want the MVP. And not only do I want the MVP, I want the defensive player of the year too.
Yeah, most people would take the high road hey, look, if I'm in the same conversation as SGA and Luka and Joker, that is amazing to me. If I can get some votes, I feel like I'm the MVP, but right, that's usually kind of what is typically said. But he actually gave examples, he kind of threw it in the face, maybe for example, somebody like Luka, 50 defense is 50% of the game. And I do that. What I do on offense is maybe not measurable always with stats.
That's
true. We'll see. I think the voters, there's always a bit of a bias. They're going to say that there's not going to be, but kind of what happened in the NFL, not to say that Stafford wasn't deserving of it, because I think he was. Right. But when you have such a young player that you're oh, he's going to have a lot of opportunity to, win some down the line. It shouldn't be like that, right? It should be who is the most valuable player of this year? And I think it's happened. LeBron's probably missed out on a couple because of that. Right. He's already won 3 in a row. He shouldn't get a 4th, for example. And so I know we were going to kind of get into some MVP talk, but he's definitely going to be in the mix, but it will be. I think that'll be one thing that voters will kind of will think like, okay, well, he's got a lot of time to win some, and he will win some.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, right? But at the same time, like he's done something that
Irving for sure.
I would say turning around the team that was a non-playoff team and pretty bad last year to the second best team in the league behind the defending champs in 1 year, in one whole season is pretty like that should be in consideration for his MVP, right?
Yep.
Obviously, his numbers are the numbers. He's going to be a little bit lower on offensively as far as scoring and things like that, but top of the league in rebounds, top of the league in obviously first in blocks, right? Going to be the best defensive player. So there are some things that are just, like some of the unmeasurables on the court. Like I think one of the stats like I would wish to see is how many shots he changes to misses. Like I feel like there ain't if they. I mean I don't know if there's a stat like that, but I would imagine that's a lot. Like there's probably not too many people that make a shot over Wemby, like in general.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. There's got to be some kind of advanced stats on that. So not just the blocks and maybe some steals and whatnot, but it's the changing the trajectory of like a shot and it probably missing, and then just being like a force down there, in the middle, and he's obviously got some range as well. And I think he is definitely building a case. Yeah. This is one of the more interesting years where you have. I mean, let's be honest, 5 or 6 guys that at one point or the other in the season, you're like, oh, like that guy can win MVP. And usually it's like 2, 3 max, right? And it's also interesting because of the whole 65 game thing too, where like we thought a couple of those guys were like, oh, they're bound to probably miss another game or two, so they're going to be disqualified. Well, they haven't missed them yet. And so, again, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe we can think of some years, but I had never seen so many guys where like literally every couple of days. I mean, we were on the Luka bandwagon, right, for like a few days last week. Now it's the Wemby, SGA for a while, Joker for a minute, Kawhi. Like, damn, Kawhi is like best player in the game. He's like, look what he's doing with the Clippers. Look at what Brown did with the Celtics. I mean, Tatum was out the whole season. I mean, they're fighting for a 1 seed in the East for crying out loud. Like, how is that not a valuable, like most valuable player? So there's a lot of guys that can win the award.
Yeah, it's a lot more even, right? Like than the years past, right? Where it seems like it's only been Joker, Giannis, and being in the top 2, and then now SGA and things like that. So it's definitely more even in terms of that. Now, before we kind of fully get into MVP, do you honestly believe San Antonio could win a championship this year?
I think they can, and if you're going to pick like 5 teams that can, you're going to have to put them in there. But I'll put it this way: I'll be surprised if they win the championship this year.
Okay. Yeah, it's just because they're young, or just it's not their time.
Yeah, we've been watching this NBA for a long time, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team like kind of similar. Now
wouldn't be OKC. They were the youngest team last year ever.
Yeah.
Right. So like, didn't at one point, do we feel, I know they had a good year the previous year, but did we feel that they were too young to win it?
Well, the year before last year, they were the 1 seed as well. And they lost in the second round.
Yeah.
So like, to like just like a Dallas team that was that went to the finals, Luka, and they just kind of ran into like a tough team. So like I feel like if San Antonio were to play like Denver in the second round, I could see something like that happening too.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like it's matching up to be like that. Lakers, I don't know. But or maybe it could be Denver if they're the 6th, but I wouldn't be like, I'm not saying they have like no chance, and I don't think they'll win it, but I will be surprised if this year they win it. I think they're could just be like just not their time. They have the players to do it, but it's still a young team. I know I mentioned they got some veteran leadership, but they're top guys. Like haven't been there, haven't done that.
Yeah. So I was looking at like, has there been a team that has gone from no playoffs to winning a championship in the NBA, right? Because you see
Four
that
series.
that in football, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I'll give some teams that have, but in context, right? So they're dating back to the 1968-69 Celtics and the 69-70 Knicks. However, in the modern NBA, since then, there has been no team that has ever done that. So I think that will be their Achilles heel, right? Just because it's difficult if you haven't had that experience at all in the NBA, because you got to go through 7-game series 4 times, right?
4 of them.
And in the NFL, you can go win 4 games, right? You're a wild card team, you're going to win 4 games. You can kind of get to the Super Bowl and get there, right? So it's a little different, I would say, with that sport. But that was kind of interesting stat. I wasn't really sure if there's been one recently, but it seems like it's not been for a while, not in the modern NBA.
Yeah, I think it's a stat that we can, continue to throw out there, like the 77 to 79, where it just, the NBA, like you said, in NFL it happens, and some other sports, baseball, things like that. But for whatever reason, when you got to get through 4 7-game series, like forget like making the playoffs. Like if you haven't won a playoff series together, like I kind of like Detroit has never won a playoff series together. Are they going to all of a sudden go and win 4? I mean, nothing in the past should really affect what happens going forward.
Sure.
But it's just like data, odds, teams that have been there before. And so while they've had a great season and they're going to be a tough out, I just think I can see like a second, maybe second, third round, either second or Western Conference Finals exit for them.
Yeah. I think it would be very hard for them to get by, having to play like a, Clippers team as a 7.
Yeah.
Then having to play like a Denver, and then playing a OKC or a Lakers team, right? I think that's going to be just hard to get through the West when you're kind of young and inexperienced.
Yeah. Yep. And it looked kind of like, I think, it looks like it'll be like probably Clippers or Phoenix in the first round for them. And then, maybe Lakers or something. So that was a little bit down the line if Lakers can get by the first round, of course.
For sure. All right. So, piggyback on what we already were talking about, but has your MVP race changed within this last week?
I think it shouldn't change like from a week of like hotness, right? I mean, it's a full season, it's a full 82. But I do think like Luka, I think we talked about it last show, I believe. Like, I think he shouldn't have been down on the MVP.
Yeah.
As like people were kind of saying. And I think it's like the whole Laker thing and, like the negativity of like, they're not a good team, even though they've been like 10, 12, 13, 14 games above 500 the whole season. Right.
Yeah.
But I still, I'm kind of just going with like the odds. I think it'll be like SGA's to lose. And then it'll be interesting who gets like second. I kind of still like Luka second, Wemby third, Joker, Brown, something like that.
Those 5, yeah.
Yeah, just because Denver, like, I'm sure we could probably look at Jokic's numbers and he's probably like averaging a triple-double.
He's averaging a triple-double.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's what he does. And it sucks because that's what he does. So it's just like we downplay it. But they just have had some, and let's be honest, they've been pretty injured this year too. And for them to like be like a solid, like they're 4 seed technically. But I think because they're like going to be a 4 or 5 or 6, it's probably going to take them out of the running.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But obviously he's having a great year too.
Their defense is just not, not up to par, right? They have a really poor defense, but they have the number 1 rated offense, right? So it just it's just nonstop. But think about like he will have averaged a triple-double for the last 2 years and not have won MVP in both of those, right? Because last year it was the same thing, right? Like He's having a great year, but then you got SGA coming up. So
Yeah.
he could win the MVP every single damn year.
Yeah.
But it's voter fatigue. He's already won it a good amount of times. It's the whole LeBron thing. LeBron could have won it for 10 years straight. Like literally, he was one of the best players at that time. And same thing with Joker. So I think that's part of it, right? Like Kobe could have won more.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen when you're like a superstar. Like SGA will probably win this one, and then I would imagine there would be a lot of voter fatigue, and you'll see Wemby or like a Luka win because they haven't won, right? You know what I mean? So they're gonna try to pump up some players that deserve it, and then eventually they'll get it the next year or so.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it kind of like the Heisman, where you off the bat like have your candidates and then you either have to like keep it up or mess up. So we already know SGA is going to win this year most likely. He's probably not going to get 3 in a row. It's going to be like the Wemby is going to be the odds-on favorite to get MVP, and if he has a pretty good year again next year, San Antonio has a good record, he's going to win it. And I think that's part of also why he may not get all the votes is because of that. Again, not saying it's right. I mean, Joker probably could have won 4 in a row, but they gave 1 to Embiid, right?
Yeah, in between.
Yeah, so I think he won 3 of 4, and so he's got
And then last year, he came pretty close to winning last year too. So
yep. But yeah, but again, I think this is like first year in a while where you have like a handful of players that probably won't realistically win it, but if it went any of those 5 ways, like for me personally, I couldn't complain. I know there would be complaints, but a lot of ways you can go with it.
Yeah, and for me, I still have SGA like at the top right there, just because he's actually their team has battled injuries as well, right? Like Jalen Williams has barely played this whole season.
That's huge.
Right?
That's huge.
He's had an injury he had to deal with for 3 weeks, right? So they kept winning, and he's kind of had some interchangeable lineups, which they have a lot of talent, so that helps. But you were also questioning, how are they going to return as champions? Are they going to still want to be as good? Still want to have that record? And they started off the season, what were they, 25-3 or whatever it was? So they started off completely killing people, and then kind of went through a little slump, and then they're back to streaking again right before the playoffs. So I think it's pretty much his to lose. And then I would put Luka, Wemby tied. Like essentially, I feel like they're at the same level right now. If for some reason Wemby could, they win enough games and OKC loses enough games to end it, and somehow San Antonio gets first, that's Wemby's award, hands down.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what it's going to take for Wemby to win it, is if San Antonio gets the first seed, I think. Yeah. And if he does, then he's deserving. Not that he's not now. Wemby and Luka, I think it's like, not that like second place is like a big deal, but I think it's one of those things that's like could be down to like the last 10 games, which is the 8th of the season. Yeah. San Antonio is going to finish ahead of the Lakers, so if you're looking at the pure standings, you would go Wemby, but maybe body of work, right? Kind of go Luka. Didn't really miss, knock on wood, much time.
Yeah.
Really, right? Been pretty consistent. But and then obviously defensive player of the year award, where that's going to go to Wemby, I would imagine, for sure. So he's going to be able to kind of get that at least.
Yeah, and last year it wasn't eligible for any awards, right? So it's one of those things. Now, talking about eligibility, there's a big thing that came out today. You had the NBA Players Association kind of talking about the 65-game rule. You had Cade Cunningham's agent come out talking about he shouldn't not be eligible based on to be honest, is like a life-threatening injury that he has. The collapsed lung is nothing to joke around about, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? I know we've got into it before, but like when you hear scenarios like this, should there be exceptions to the rule, or should they just get rid of the 65-game rule? Because now he's going to be missing out on all NBA team, which is money. And that's a huge thing for these players.
Yeah, I think like the spirit of the rule obviously was to kind of control some of the load management and missing games just to miss games. Now, I don't know how I guess you could differentiate if they have like an actual serious injury, from a doctor or something, then maybe you can kind of figure something out, but that gets a little messy. I think you got to throw out the games thing or not make it monetary. So firstly, your first NBA, all NBA, like all NBA or MVP, like honestly, those are just accolades, right? Like at the end of the day, like obviously people want to win MVPs, but it doesn't really, I don't know. I mean, it brings obviously like brings attention to you and things like that, which probably does have some kind of monetary gain, but actual salary monetary gain, I think if you take that away, then maybe you can do the games thing, or maybe like you can't be first team or whatever, right? Like something. But yeah, I think it always takes a year like this to happen where it's going to be talked about and it's probably going to change. And I could see that being thrown out. And it probably should be.
Yeah. And like we said before, like I feel like the number of games is just arbitrary. It doesn't make any sense because if a player has played 30 or 40 games, he's not going to be MVP. Come on. I mean, like, let's be realistic. You're not going to vote for somebody that played half the season, right? Exactly. They likely need to play 50 plus, 60 plus games, right? However, the monetary thing I think is not right because what we've seen Cade so far, like if he ended the season right now, he deserves to be all NBA.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt. Like his team is first place. They're going to be first place likely to end the season with or without him. And if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be where they are at this point. If they didn't have him the whole season, no way in hell Detroit is probably a playoff team. So I think like in that case scenario, that could be individually based or whatever you want to say it. But that's cut and dry in my opinion. Right? If somebody's played like Embiid right now has played 30 to 40 games, maybe, or whatever it is, he's not going to be in the running for MVP. He's not going to be in the running for all NBA. So those are like normal situations. But something like this is like it's inexcusable for the NBA to say he can't be an all NBA player.
Yeah, and if they're like hell bent on keeping it like this, then say, hey, he can't make first team, right? So then you would put Cade, for example, in like the second team, and he would be eligible for all the things he's because it doesn't mean that he just has to make the all NBA team, one of the three, and you know what I mean. So like I would,
you can't name 15 players that are better than him.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, if you're going to do this. Say, well, if you really want it this way, I think you should take it away regardless, but you can't be first. But yeah, you can't tell me there's 15 guys that have been playing better than him this season, right? Like you said. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be tweaks and it is such an arbitrary number. And yes, if a guy plays 55 games, he's most likely not going to win MVP or be first team.
Totally. So hopefully they change it. We'll see. I know they're going to be working on tanking. I know they're going to be working on some of these rule changes. You got expansion talks at the end of this month too. So it's going to be a lot of changes going into the offseason.
Yeah.
But speaking of the offseason, the NBA draft will be here before you know it, especially after the finals. The NCAA tournament is going on right now. March Madness is going crazy. You got some top players that are playing, and some players are already out of it.
Yep.
But I wanted to get into some top prospects, especially players like Darian Peterson, who, after he lost and Kansas is out of the finals, kind of talked about his year, right? Talked about the injuries that he's kind of dealt with, which we didn't really know much about at all. And then he also talked about the mentally it took a toll, and like his mentality, it kind of everything, the criticism, things like that kind of took a toll. Now, I like to compare his season to a player like Paolo Banchero, because if you remember, he was dealing with cramps. He was always leaving games. They were talking about he loses 7 pounds by sweating a game, which is still, to me, unheard of. Like, I don't even know what that means. And it kind of, I would say, put his draft status in kind of the air a little bit, right? Obviously, still was drafted pretty high, but wasn't like he was off some people's draft boards, right? Like as far as being the number one pick and things like that. It hasn't changed his career trajectory, right? He's still a very good NBA player. He's still growing. He's still learning, but he is a top player for his team. Do you feel this affects Darian Peterson's draft status? What has been going on and all the talk that has been going on?
I think so, and the reason is because we've been hearing this for a while, that it's a pretty deep draft, particularly up top, And so you can kind of tell because there's always been, or at least as of late, there's been tanking, but there's quite a few teams that are tanking now. And so maybe like where you have the Wemby draft where it's like, hey, we got to, it's like, you got to get that number one pick or else it's like obviously all downhill from there. Where I think teams are comfortable getting like a top 5 or 6 pick and thinking they're going to get a stud. And so if it was like a surefire, he's like best guaranteed in the draft, it probably wouldn't affect them. But when you're pulling hairs, right, with some of these top guys, something like that, what's been going on could potentially hinder him. Now, it's going to probably depend who gets that first pick and the need and how they truly value him. And if they feel like he's going to be their next, big time point guard, then so be it. Right. But yeah, I don't know. I think we've heard plenty of guys that like, sure, we got to pay attention to the red flags, but it is college. He's probably been hearing all along that he's going to be a top pick. And it's probably like easy from the outside to say like, come on, like, just you're with Kansas now and just ball out and just play ball and don't worry about anything else. But there's obviously going to be distractions, but I do think that yes, like these things, as I said, when you're kind of picking hairs, right? It could affect him.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going to affect him is a team's wanting to pick him at number one. I mean, once you get past 1, I think all the pressure's off you as a team.
Yes.
And you pick him at 2 or 3, 4, whatever it is.
What a great draft pick. Oh my God, what a steal.
Oh my God, you got Darren Peterson at 3, right? That's like the best draft you can ever have.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of just being the number 1 pick, who do you think right now is kind of leading that pack?
I don't want to butcher the last name. AJ DeBonsa from BYU. DeBonsa. I gotta look. Obviously you got Cameron Boozer. Caleb Wilson from North Carolina is making some noise. I know there's a guy that you would like to talk about. I'm big on Houston, so I like a guy Clingston Flemings. Remember that name, my boy Clingston Flemings. I just like Houston. They're my pick, by the way, to win it all.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be Clingston. I don't think he's going to be the number 1 pick, but he might be one of those. Like, damn, what a steal that was.
We'll go back on this tape.
Yep.
When he's out the NBA balling next year, we'll kind of
yeah. But I know there's a couple of guys you kind of are targeting at number 1.
Like to me, I feel the most ready player is Darius Ufka, what do you how to pronounce the last name? Acuff Jr.
Acuff
right?
Jr. Yeah.
Darius Acuff Jr.
Arkansas
is just polished as the offensive player. Like when you look at him, he reminds me of Allen Iverson, right? Like he's got that game. I mean, shoot, he has even the cornrows right now, right? Like so, it's like you just look at him, you're like, he's a smaller guard. He's what 6'2" ish, probably. I think they list him at 6'3", but he looks more like 6'2". He can do everything on the offensive end. Now, can he be a defensive liability? Possibly, right? His size and things like that. But if you're looking for a player that's going to come in and average 20 from the get-go, I think he is your guy, right? He's the first college guy to sign a shoe deal, right? Like he's with Reebok. I saw a picture with him and Iverson, which makes sense. Like, I love that Reebok is doing that. I hope they bring back the commercial that Iverson did when he makes that signature move, that spin and cross, and do some sort of commercial like that to keep the marketing up. But to be honest, I think he could be that for a team. He can be the next Iverson for a team. And Iverson was a hell of a player. Like, he got his Philly team to the finals, played against the Lakers squad. That was going to be impossible to beat anyways. But he was one hell of a player for years.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, like we just named, like obviously 5-6 guys that are going to be impactful. I mean, obviously, we don't know until it actually happens. But again, your teams are lobbying to get a top 5 pick. You got a team like randomly like Indiana that it's interesting. Like if they fall from like 5 to either 9 or 10, Clippers get their pick. But if they get a 1 through 4, they keep their pick. So that's why they're in like, they want to, they don't want to like take any chance. And obviously you still got to pick those ping pong balls or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we're gonna hear a lot, like how it is when you get closer to the end of the season, you get closer to the draft, and people start picking apart people's um games. And
Yeah.
I mean, hell, in the NFL, for the first time in a long time, I heard today that all of a sudden maybe for Fernando Mendoza, like maybe you don't go with him.
Oh,
As a first, yeah, it's
don't get me started. The media and NFL
yes.
are bored. They
Yeah,
are
that's what I
bored.
was thinking. They are bored. They really
Stop.
want to go with the kid from Bama, right?
Dan
Simpson.
Orlovsky goes on there and talks about Ty Simpson being the number. I'm like,
Yes.
there's just
Yeah,
clickbait. They're trying to make you feel like there's somebody else. It's only one person in the draft, one quarterback, and it's not like you can just all of a sudden say, hey, yeah, let's take a chance now and mess this up when there's only one guy that you think is the guy. Like, you can't do that. But
yeah,
anyway.
and this happens sometimes when it's just like surefire.
Yeah.
And right, you're bored. Like right now, NFL is quiet. It's like past that free agency time. Obviously, the draft's not till next month. Basketball is kind of taking some shine right now away. So it's like you gotta kind of creep a little bit of like throw some nuggets, like, oh, maybe Mendoza isn't the first pick. And so that's my point is as we get closer, we're going to hear some negativity about some of these guys, probably more than positive. And so, but should be a fun, obviously up in the air draft. Definitely.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. And there's some definitely the most talent they've had in a long time because there's like multiple players that could be number one picks in my opinion and a lot of people's opinion. So it should be a fun one. And that's why you see teams like you said, Indiana that are continuing to lose. But could you imagine if they get AJ Dibansa, right? And then you come back with Halliburton, you trade it for Zubac, you still have Pascal Siakam. Like, that's a team that becomes a much better team and likely a top team in the East next year because of that. So that'd be pretty amazing to see something like that happen.
Yeah, look out. I mean, it's funny how that happens sometimes, like in history where, you have a team that's pretty good, but they have a couple injuries. And so they have a bad year and then they get a top pick. Obviously, like San Antonio with Tim Duncan years ago, that was a team of note. But that would be something else. But yeah, a lot of prospects coming up in a deep, deep draft.
For sure. All right. So just to wrap up the show, there was a significant injury yesterday. One of those injuries that make you look away. I'm not going to play it on here, but one of those injuries that happen and you go, what happened to that dude's leg, right? Like, because when it immediately happened, Moses Moody was going up for a dunk and pretty much it looked like his knee gave out. You couldn't really tell from the view that they had, and then the only problem is they had another view, a close-up on him while he's on the ground, and he kind of uncovered his knee, and you can see where his patella was, and so that's your kneecap, and so when you have a tendon that attaches down to the bone, lower bone right here, when that rips, that kneecap will pretty much shoot all the way up, and it'll create this huge gap in your knee. And that's essentially what you saw yesterday if you're watching the game. Terrible injury. It's one of those injuries that when you get a patella tendon tear, it's a gruesome rehab. It takes usually 9 to 12 months to return. And I wouldn't say he's young, right? But it's one of those injuries when you're like a little bit older, like you're 30, it really zaps your athleticism. You see it in football a lot. It's a tough injury to kind of return from. I don't doubt he'll be back and he'll be 100%, but it just is a rough injury to rehab.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate for the young fella who's having a pretty, decent kind of career year. Didn't get a chance to catch the game, but I saw the picture of his knee before seeing the play, and so it was one of those where the aftermath looks worse than like the play. And sometimes it's like goes the other way around where you're like, ooh, that didn't look good. And actually it's not too bad.
Yeah.
This was kind of just like a very innocent, just jumping to lay the ball up. And obviously something happened not on the land when he landed, right? I think
it was on the jump.
On the jump. Yeah.
So when he jumped, it pretty much tore. Those are very like random injuries. A lot of times you see it either like on a jump or it's like backpedaling. Like you'll see sometimes when a cornerback is backpedaling and kind of turns and the knee just gives out. That can happen. It's a lot different than like say the ACL. ACLs usually happen on like a landing, more of a deceleration kind of movement where they're, you're doing a Euro step and you're jumping onto that left leg. So you're landing and it kind of gives out. This is more like the exploding. So trying to explode to something and it just decided that it was the time.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's kind of rare, and luckily he's young. Obviously he's not I think I was kind of wanting to look what his contract is. He looks like he's still under contract with the Warriors, so that's nice. I think he signed like a 3-year deal a year or two ago. But yeah, luckily he's young. He should bounce back. But yeah, something that you don't really want to see, especially with the Warriors team that's
they just
as injured as can be.
Yeah, it's like you saw Steph on the bench. He's looking just miserable. I mean, obviously for a
They're
teammate.
So bad. They're so bad right now.
Like,
I'm gonna go look at where they're at right now.
Yeah, it's just so. I mean, you got Steph out, Steph trying to come back. Porzingis has been out a lot. Draymond's been out. It's been nonstop. Obviously, Jimmy Butler tore his ACL, so he's been out for the whole this past season. It's just rough. It's rough sledding. I don't think it's going to get any better. They're still
they are your 10 seed, right? I think they are going to
be the 10 seed. So they're going to have to win 2 games to get into the playoffs
on the road.
I don't even know how feasible that is right now. Like, to be honest with you, I don't know if a Phoenix or Clippers lose to them. So it's tough sledding for the Warriors. You feel bad because you want to see Steph in the playoffs, but I don't think this version of the Warriors this year, because last year they were actually a team where I thought could possibly challenge for a championship. And if it wasn't for Steph getting injured and tearing his hamstring, I think they would have. I think they would have been,
at least maybe Western Finals.
Yeah, I think they would have got to Western Conference Finals. They were already in the second round. So, yeah,
it's tough. I mean, you're going to win 2 road games, and who do you get if you win those 2 road games? The OKC Thunder.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, it's not good.
Yeah, so not their year, and I wouldn't be upset if Steph Curry just was like, "Hey, is it worth to come and play a game or 2 in the play-in?" I mean, we probably will, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Eric. So that wraps up our show tonight. We'll be back on the next couple of days, but until then, the Hoops Rehab team is out. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.